This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you by Language Blend, the new best way to learn Spanish. Language Blend focuses on what you actually need to live and get by abroad with daily one-on-one lessons, a dedicated texting partner. It's like living in a Spanish-speaking country without ever leaving home. Go to languageblend.com for more information. Welcome back to another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is Nick O'Brien, also known as Nick Loves Spain. He's on a mission to get you to Spain and inspire people about Americans in Spain. Nick, how's it going?
Doing very well, man. I really appreciate you having me on today. I'm excited to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. We first connected on Twitter. I saw you were doing something kind of similar to My Latin Life, but for Spain, which we talk about a little bit Spain, but obviously it's not our focus area.
hmm
And love to see that you're kind of doubling down on this region and this country and showing how, Americans could potentially live a better life in walkable, cultured cities of Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. I sure have experienced that myself, and if I can, spread my love for Spain and inspire some people to check it out and potentially fall in love with the country as well, then I'll be a happy man.
Yeah, I saw some threads that you did, and they were just extremely detailed threads. I was like, holy crap. And then, I was following you for a while,
hmm
and then you recently, and this will probably come out like a month after recording it, but you recently kind of went full time on Nick Loves Spain, or at least putting more energy into it. And so I was like, you know what? Maybe this is a good time. Get
hmm
him on the podcast. He's trying to really go hard on this thing. So here we are.
Yeah, man, which I appreciate wholeheartedly. I quit my job. I was in tech sales, living out in Spain for about 2-3 years. Was teaching English out here beforehand, and just started a little Twitter niche Spain page, and it was getting some good traction. And I was at a point in my career where I have some money saved, and thought, why the heck not? People are making a lot of money on Twitter and doing the whole solopreneur thing. So thought it was a good time to give things a shot.
Do you want to kick it off by just telling us about your 5-year journey in Spain, why you love it there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Los Angeles, and I just grew up there, spent my whole life there. Went to college there, went to USC, and my junior year, like most people do, I went and studied abroad, and I was in the business school, and it was such that you basically had like 40 something schools to rank, and then you did an application process, and there was a scoring system, and there were probably like 3 or 4 schools in Spain. And so I put Barcelona and Madrid at the very top, and then I think a couple other European countries in schools. I think Lisbon was up there, and Copenhagen. I was kind of just putting big names out there because I hadn't been to Europe yet at that point. I was 20, and then I heard back, and I was signed to Pamplona, which is a city that I really didn't know much about, but because it was Spain, I think I ranked at sixth or something. And so in January 2021, I headed out to Pamplona. I was luckily going there with a couple guys who I became friends with quickly, and that kind of kicked off all things Spain for me. I had a pretty tremendous time in Pamplona. It's an incredible place, incredible city, really a wholesome place. And if anyone gets the chance to go up there, they should. And met a lot of cool people. Was able to travel around Europe, obviously, a bunch, and it was just a lifestyle that, after the 5 months or whatever, I certainly didn't want to say goodbye to, but I had to, of course, to finish off college. And so I went home. I went to my senior year at USC, finished it off, and pretty much the entire first semester, when I did get home, I was trying to find a way back to Spain. I was looking into master's programs. I was looking into obscure master's programs. I was trying to actually get back to Pamplona, which is pretty funny. I'm glad I
Mhm.
didn't end up back there. just because I think the big city is a lot more fun. But ended up encountering the Teach English program that I ended up doing, and so applied to that. It's called the Language and Culture Assistance Program. Basically, just an opportunity for people to come out here, make a decent, a livable wage for sure,
Hmm.
and get assigned to one of the bigger cities in Spain. And so I got Madrid. I did that for 3 years. Taught at an elementary school, fourth and fifth graders, which was a good age because they're still, really young and cute and funny, but not too
Not
young
rebels yet.
and not rebels yet at all.
Okay.
And I mean, the real rebels were the second graders and the first
Oh,
graders, and so they were a little bit mature, but yeah, not into their teens yet. So I did that, and then pandemic hit, and I was thinking about going back to the U.S. Anyways, because the whole teach English in Spain thing isn't so much a long term gig, and went home and got a remote job in tech sales. And probably after like 3, 4, 5 months, I just kind of thought to myself, hey, I could probably do this from anywhere. And so I did a little test run in the summer of 2021, doing my job from Spain. Went back home to figure out visa stuff and to get the approval from my company to come out here full time, and got that, and been back in Madrid since January 2021. And here I am, and then started this Spain account, which I'm sure we'll get into earlier this year. But it's been quite the good journey, and as is suggested in my Twitter handle, I just love Spain a lot, and happy to be here.
nice. And so you're calling in from Madrid now, or where are you based?
Yeah, I'm in Madrid right now. I'm living in the city center with some buddies, and so it's a little bit later in the night for me. It's about 10 p.m. But yeah, been here since coming. I bounce around a little bit just because I have the luxury of location independence. So I've been to the Canary Islands before. I'll go up north in the summer typically to Basque Country. So I definitely get out of Madrid here and there, but this is my home base.
Okay, cool. The Madrid urban jungle, 10 p.m. Are you sipping on some $2-3 bottle of wine right now?
I'm not, no, but tomorrow I will be. I'm just doing the water. I did have dinner right before this though, so I am adhering to the late dinners in Spain, although it's usually like 10:30, 11. But yeah, the wine will come tomorrow.
Cool. Good self-control.
Thank you.
Couple of threads there I could have picked up on, but I think one of the big ones for the audience is just how to get a remote job, and if you're American, how to get them to actually approve you living abroad,
Hmm.
which is a big thing. So, you underwent a pretty significant change going from being an English teacher, kind of scraping by, to getting in the tech industry, working in tech sales, and working for an American company and being able to do that abroad remotely from Spain. So that's a probably huge pay raise and just like a very good logical step forward. Would love to hear if there were any kind of tips from that process that you could share with the audience.
Yeah, for sure. When I came back, I didn't really have any hard skills, I'd say, where I wasn't into any sort of computer programming. I wasn't an engineer. I didn't have ties to any particular career path. Studied business, and so sales pretty quickly became, a really realistic thing for me to look into. There are other remote jobs, of course, that people can look into, like graphic design and copywriting, and within tech, customer support, and things like that. But I don't mind talking to people, and I liked talking to people. So, and there were a lot of sales jobs available, which definitely helps. And so, decided to kind of pursue that path. And really, yeah, just as far as like the advice I can give to people who are looking to find a remote job and decide what's best for them. I mean, anyone who doesn't know what they want to do but are comfortable talking to people, I think sales is an awesome career. Like you said, it's a big pay raise, not just from English teaching, but from a lot of jobs. And so, for me with sales, there's a pretty clear like entry level position. It's called a BDR, SDR, sales
Hmm.
development rep,
Hmm.
business development rep, cold calling and whatnot. And so I just found something on LinkedIn, and basically I just, whatever job you find on LinkedIn, apply, and don't stop there. You got to find the right point of contact to reach out to at the company, whether it's like the recruiter or the person who would be your manager, and just send them a LinkedIn message, pay for LinkedIn Premium or whatever. Send them a message asking for 15 minutes of their time. And I mean,
Hmm.
that's how I had pretty immediate success, I'd say, in at least getting an interview. Um, and so, yeah, I went through that whole process, got hired, and yeah, I mean, I was in the U.S. for like 5 months in that entry level position,
Hmm.
and I think in order to like even entertain the idea of like moving abroad and working from somewhere else, especially working somewhere like Spain, where the time zone is the difference is so significant, that perhaps it could just disrupt someone's workflow a little bit and lead to poor performance. But yeah, definitely make sure, like, if you do get that remote job, that you are in good graces with the company and working hard and doing well, before you try and lay something like moving to Spain on them.
Okay, so you didn't anchor it during the job application process. You just said, "Yeah, I'm American. I live in the States, blah blah blah." And then 4 or 5 months in, you're like, "Hey guys, I got to go to Spain. Can we keep the relationship going?"
Hmm.
How did that work out?
Yeah, yeah. So while I was over here, I had two jobs. I had, the initial job, and I'll talk about how that worked out. And then I ended up applying for a new job and then getting that job while I was in Spain. And so I'll speak to both. But the first one, yeah, at first I was just entertaining the idea of moving to Spain for the summer, hanging out with my old friends. One of my buddies had like a vacant room in his apartment for the summer, and so I just talked to my boss and just said, "Hey, I'm doing pretty well, and Spain is my happy place, and I believe I'll perform even better where I'm happiest." Which, in a tech company, there's a lot of focus on happy employees, so I was definitely kind of playing that card a little bit. And I got the approval, yeah, to just kind of spend a couple months out here and work. And then when I got out here, I essentially just worked my butt off, worked even harder, and did a lot better. And did that so that when I returned home after a couple months, I could pull the card
Okay, so you
of.
told them even about the couple month test.
Hmm. No,
Oh,
I didn't
really?
frame it as a test. Yeah, I didn't frame it as a test. I just said, "Hey, this is my happy place. Can I go out there for the summer?" Um, and they said yes. It was a smaller ask than the
Okay,
eventual bigger
baby
ask.
stepped it.
Baby stepped it for sure.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then came home and did the bigger ask and got the approval pretty quickly. And ended up, yeah, I think 3 months later, moving out to Spain. So there was definitely, a little bit of a journey there in making this happen, but but it was a successful one. So happy to speak, yeah, on any more of that, but that's how it went.
That's pretty cool. And probably worth noting that you're doing this as a W-2 or a 1099 or something like that, but you're contracting or working for American companies while living in Europe full time.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You nailed it.
That's cool because some people think it's not possible or it's too complicated or your company will never agree because and yeah, I mean the Spanish tax system is not to be played with, so I'm interested how you kind of overcame that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, well, actually, so what I did, and this is a little bit of like a conniving thing, and potentially, to be frank with you, like while I was working as an actual employee with benefits and whatnot, I don't know the exact rules. I was playing more ignorant, and I'll be curious to, yeah, like hear what you know about it. But the idea of what I did was, I continued as an employee. I wasn't contracted, and I just used my parents' address back home,
Yep.
and ended up just moving out here to Spain as a student, and taking some Spanish classes every week. And
Okay, so that's the visa you got.
that's the visa. Yeah,
You got a
exactly. And
student visa. Okay.
Yeah, and we could talk about all the visas and the possibilities there. They're not just limited to the student visa.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, just continued paying taxes. I'm from California, so in California, using my parents' address, and wasn't paying any taxes in Spain at that point.
Realistically, not that much better in California.
No, it was not something I needed to really think much on, just because yeah, my California residency screws me anyway. So yeah, it'll be interesting moving forward now that I quit my job and I'm doing this whole Nick Love Spain thing and hoping to monetize and all that stuff. I need to speak with the right people and have a lot to consider. Potentially change my residency in the United States and see how much time per year I'll be spending in Spain and how much I'll be spending back home,
Hmm.
and kind of figure it out from there.
Cool. So it's possible, guys. You can get a remote job for an American company. You can kind of wiggle your way into working abroad. You can baby step it, whatever it is. You can do it. You can tell them, you cannot tell them. So there's a million ways to do it.
Yeah, and I have a lot of friends who, haven't told their company at all, and I had one friend who didn't tell their company, and they ended up, flagging that he was in Spain and called him back pretty quickly. So you got to be a bit wary of that, and
Hmm.
probably lead with a little bit of honesty. But and then I have friends, who do freelance and whatnot, and there are freelance visas and digital nomad visas and entrepreneur visas. So apart from the student visa, other routes for sure that
Hmm.
don't require so much wiggling in.
Good. So we can come back to some visa logistics, but let's paint a picture first of how amazing Spain is, why you love Spain. People laughing, dancing in the plazas till midnight, chilling on the terrazas and the patios, and paint me a picture of what you like so much about Spain.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think on a like a broader component, just there's the adventure part, right? Of just moving out, moving away from home. Things are different. You're meeting new people. Culture's different. You're independent, and you're alone. And I like I have my family back home. I love them to death, but the actual like moving out here and having something that's completely my own, and not being tied to really anything but my own interests, is really special and I think important at some point in your life. Probably within your 20s makes the most sense. Um, and so that was kind of a big decision, maker for me there. And then as far as like why Spain, I mean, why Madrid? It's a great little hub. It's great for travel. I can bounce around to other countries really easily. It's very walkable. You mentioned that, which is great. I get my 10,000 steps in
Hmm.
pretty effectively. Food scene is incredible. Spanish food. A lot of people I feel like they hate on Spanish food. I think Spanish food is good. I definitely think it's a little bit heartier than some cuisines, but there's a strong expat community out here as well. The locals are friendly. Lots of things to do. I'm in like a soccer league. I play paddle tennis. I'm going to the horse races this weekend.
Ooh.
Water skiing every now and again. I went to the opera the other week with my girlfriend and saw the New York City Ballet. And then, like you mentioned, the terraces and the rooftops and their day trips and whatnot. Um, and so it's just there's a certain energy and a certain beauty as well, to living in Europe and not least in Madrid, where you just kind of walk around and you're inspired because there's years of history to it and there's beautiful architecture. I saw a tweet of yours that explained Europe as being more aesthetic than Latin America. Um, and I think it's a beautiful place and I think beauty inspires. And so yeah, it's just been wonderful. Then I guess on the greater scheme of things in Spain in general, I like the culture of long lunches. I like having a drink at lunch and taking a siesta after that. The climate's great. The regional diversity is really cool. Basque Country is very different to the community of Madrid. Is very different to Andalusia in the south. The food's different wherever you go, and I love flamenco dancing. Not myself, but watching it. Yeah, the tapas and the pinchos culture is great. Um, all the different festivals that you can find throughout Spain are cool. And I did the running of the bulls one year. That was awesome. I've yet to go to a bullfight, although I would like to witness one and see one and kind of get a feel for things myself. But a lot to be said. Obviously, I just kind of said a lot right there, but
Hmm.
it's a wholesome lifestyle, and it's a wholesome lifestyle in a place that feels just divine and beautiful. And
Hmm.
so I guess that's the best way I could put it.
What do you think is the difference maker in terms of making it a better place to spend time than California? And, you know, in that vein, when you go back to California, you feel like things are off or something's missing. Like what are kind of those almost indescribable aspects of
Mm.
it?
Yeah, yeah, it's a good question. I think on the one hand, going home means being tied to responsibilities outside of myself. And so, I go home, I got to see granddad, I got to see mom, I got to see my baby cousins, I got to see friends. And when I go home, it's usually for shorter periods of time. So everything, even then, especially, is just crunched into one. And then, outside of that, I mean, LA is expensive as hell. And I like nice things, nice meals and nice experiences and whatnot. And there's more bang for your buck out in Spain than there is in LA. But there's also just like it's like a calmness, I suppose. Even when you walk around Madrid, which is a big city, on a Friday, at 5 o'clock, and everyone's out and about. It's there's a certain like wholesome like calmness to it where it feels serene and it doesn't feel very chaotic and it's orderly, and you just feel immersed in so much at once. Um, I also think LA is kind of going to shit, just in general, and you know
Mm.
you have to drive everywhere for that, and so it's just yeah, it's a wholesomeness, I suppose, and like a sophistication. You feel kind of like you're doing something cool and beautiful, and maybe you yourself feel cool and beautiful to some degree. Whereas LA, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just big and there's traffic and things are expensive and my friends are all scattered all over now, so it's not the same as it was when I was a kid. But yeah, yeah, it's just a wholesome lifestyle out here, which is cool. And so I hope to forever be tied in some ways to Spain, which is probably one purpose of this account. Will I go back to LA or home eventually? Maybe to some degree, of course, but I'll buy property in Spain for sure and spend as much time out here as possible. And my girlfriend's from LA as well, which is kind of ironic. Um,
That's
Even though
funny.
I met
Where'd
her
you guys meet?
I met out in Madrid, man, which is pretty funny. But she's the cousin of one of my good friends, and she was out in Europe, and he just was
Cousin of a
insistent that
good
we meet.
friend. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Which usually you wouldn't imagine one of your good friends sets you up with their cousin, I suppose. But he was insistent that we meet, and now she lives in Madrid, and so yeah, we'll see where the path takes me. But I'll be in Spain for the foreseeable future, I'd say.
Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about Bitrefill. Bitrefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. Bitrefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries, including the USA, Canada, all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information.
We pay 2,100 euros for the flat, which it's funny. It depends on like who you talk to. There are people who were in Madrid 10 years ago, and so they hear that and they think crazy expensive because it's a 3 bedroom, recently refurbished. There's like a master bedroom ensuite, which is the one that I have, and then there's two other bedrooms like with double beds, two bathroom. I have one, they have the other, and then nice living room, nice kitchen, and like a really nice terrace, and yeah, all in the center. And so I think it's reasonable. And compared to LA, my goodness, I think it's hard to like compare apples to apples, obviously. But I have buddies who are paying 2,100 for a room, no problem, in a place that,
Insane.
yeah, I would not, choose their place over mine any day. And so, like, I personally pay 950 euros, which is probably just over like 1,000 US dollars, which is, yeah, again, expensive. You can find a lot cheaper. I have friends paying like 400 euros for a decent room in a
Hmm.
decent flat. Um,
And so is
but
this like one of those like classic like 100-year-old buildings with the tall ceilings and the Spanish tiles?
yeah, no, it's not. The building itself is definitely pretty classic, and the exterior is brick. I don't know when the building was made, but the exterior fits in with the rest of the aesthetic of the city. But no, they're actually refurbishing um, our entire building, so every single flat in the building, and we're actually getting a pretty solid discount while they do it. For like we pay 1,600 now, probably for the rest of the year, for just a minimal noise. Every day, just a little bit of banging. So even better for the cost of living aspect. But I've lived in those types of places before, especially when I was in Pamplona, and I paid 270 euros in Pamplona for a good room, with a couple other buddies. And so if you go outside of Madrid, you're getting into crazy inexpensive territory. Um,
Yeah, seriously. Like I've heard of people paying, you go to like a second, third tier city in Spain and you
mhm.
get a three-bedroom place for like 600 bucks maybe, something
Yeah,
like that.
probably
200 a
even
room,
less.
even
Yeah,
less. Yeah.
yeah, even less, which is wild. I've heard of even people scheming. I have one buddy who was entertaining this idea, but of like signing 3 4 different leases and then Airbnb those rooms. This is illegal, obviously,
Right, a little
but
like sublet house hacking.
yeah,
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 yeah.
exactly, yeah, and just being able to live off of that money,
Yeah, I
just
remember
because it
my
is so
time in
cheap.
Spain. I was meeting like a lot of people from Latin America when I was in
Mm,
Spain, and like I was kind of asking them about their setups, and everyone was paying like 150 bucks for a room, and I was like,
yeah,
this is sick. This is like cheaper than you'd pay in Latin America." And they're like,
yeah.
"Yeah."
That's awesome. I don't. Yeah, in the big cities, I can't see that happening as much anymore. Maybe living out of the center, obviously, will bring the cost down. But even if it's in that vicinity, like compared to the 1,500 plus that people are paying for a room, I have buddies like who have their own spot that are paying like 5,000 per month in LA, and for what? I just it's silly to me. I know it's silly to you. Um, but and that's not even everything. I mean, like you said, there are other cost savings. I probably spend like $60 on groceries per week, probably compared to what would be 200 and something. Going out and having a nice meal is like $15 with wine, with beer. If you want like a really nice meal, it's probably like $40. Um, and then I have no car payment, which is awesome. I don't pay any gas, so whatever that costs these days. Public transport, I probably pay like $10 a month. Um, and yeah, like phone plan, I don't know, I pay like 20 or something. So
Mhm.
these costs obviously add up, and the savings amounts to thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And so if you can get away with working a U.S. job with a U.S. salary and living out here, and I mean, gosh, even if you did it for a year, you'd save so much money, at a younger age, and obviously that compounds, and
Mhm.
you have a lot more money when you retire, which is
Mhm.
yeah, one of the big reasons for doing this whole thing.
And by the way, the movie is called L'Auberge Espagnole, which translates to the Spanish apartment. It's a Spanish French movie, 2002. The actor's Romain Dury. It's like a classic. It's a classic one of the. It's kind of about like Erasmus students that are
Mm,
all like living together, and like one guy's Dutch and the other guy, and it's like like 6 different countries, in Europe, and they're all kind of like learning how to convivir for the first time,
Yeah.
and it's a good like meeting of worlds type of movie.
Yeah.
So I recommend that for the listeners. It's good.
I- I'll watch it for sure. Is it in various languages?
I'm sure it's got to be like dubbed in all the like European languages.
I mean, like, are they, because they're from all these different parts of the world, are they speaking only Spanish, or are they like with each
Well, it's
other?
French Spanish, so it's like kind of a mix of both
Okay, cool.
because the actor is French and he's like entering this house, but then in the
Gotcha,
house they
gotcha.
speak Spanish because it's Barcelona or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. I'll watch it
Yeah.
this weekend.
Another random one just comes to my mind. Have you seen Vicky Cristina Barcelona?
I haven't, man, and I know
You
I
have
need
not?
to. No.
Dude. Oh my god, cuz I think they're from California too
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
movie.
I think you could be right. I've
Dude,
made a
it's
list of
Scarlett
movies.
Johansson. It's Scarlett
Yeah, who I love.
Johansson and whatever, some other girl. And then they go to Barcelona. They like see it, dude. It's like literally your account in movie format, where it's like
Beautiful.
American discovers Europe, more passion.
Let's
Like,
go. I'll recommend one Spanish movie that's on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it. In English, it's Outlaws. In Spanish, it's Las Leyes de la Frontera, and it takes place in
okay,
Girona. And it's like a teenager who's bullied and then becomes friends with these older kids who are like burglars and committing heists, and he falls in love and all this stuff, and it's really good. So highly
las
recommend.
las leyes de la frontera.
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Outlaws, Outlaws.
okay, cool, cool, cool. I will take a look for that. It's on the list. Where
Nice.
were we? So, cost of living. Um, Random question. Do you find the grocery stores are a little bit different in Spain versus California?
Yeah, 100%. Not as much, diversity and variety and all of your nice things that you can get in the United States. One that comes to mind is like peanut butter.
Mm,
I think recently they've started to introduce it more and more, but it's kind of like a blessing and a curse because on the one hand, the food's probably unhealthier in the United States, or is, especially some of it. And in Spain, obviously, I mean, there's still unhealthy food for sure. But at least for me, I eat like more wholesome foods, whole food ingredients pretty much only, and probably have become like a better cook by living out here as well, just because there's less to work with. But yeah, they're also smaller. Like my local grocery store is, the size of what would be, I
like
don't
an
know.
airplane hangar.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And so as opposed to, yeah, these big, huge supermarkets with multiple aisles. So yeah, yeah, big difference there. That's a funny question. Gosh, I'm in more money saving mode now just from doing this Nick Love Spain thing and quitting my job. But when I was working, I probably ate like a steak or two a day, and it probably ran me like $6 a steak or something for a nice ribeye. So now I went home and went to like Trader Joe's, and the old grass fed ribeyes that I used to eat went from like phew, just in the past like year and a half or something, like $15 to like $25 now for a steak. So um, if you eat steak, then move to Spain is the lesson there.
It's not all pork. That's good. That's
Yeah,
reassuring.
not all pork, definitely not.
One other thing you mentioned regarding cost of living was that activities are way more economical. I remember when you're in Canada or the US, you almost don't want to do activities that sound expensive because they're going to be expensive. Even the movies or going to a museum, like a
Hmm.
museum. And how much is a museum in LA these days? $30
Probably, yeah, that's probably a
more?
not very expensive museum, I'd say. Depending, I mean, sometimes they'll offer free tickets, depending maybe you're a student or like of old age. But yeah, $30 is probably
Yeah,
on
just
par.
something like that. And you go to a museum in Spain and it might be like €3 or something,
Yeah,
And all these little like activities, whether it's a camping spot or I don't know what boxing lessons, like it's all just like an order of magnitude cheaper.
Yeah. Boxing lessons here, I've done it, are like, what's something like, gosh, $20 for like 8 lessons or something. It's group classes or whatever. You go twice a week, but it's nothing. And like horse races, right? I'm going to that on Saturday, and it'll probably be like a €1 bus for 15 minutes just outside the center, and the ticket itself costs $12. And beers will cost three, and
Hmm.
food will cost probably $10 or whatever. So, you know, barely
Yeah.
scratching probably $40 or something.
Whereas going to a horse race in the States, you have to be mentally prepared for $250 day for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll see if I'm betting some money. Maybe I'll be a little bit more than $40, or maybe I'll come home with some more money in my pocket. But yeah, we'll see.
No, that's cool. And I think part of this that people don't realize is that salaries are actually much lower in Spain than most people realize. You think, oh, it's first world, it's the West. They must be like making somewhat equivalent money, but they're like the average salary is like super low, right? Like maybe you could speak to this more.
Yeah, I think the average salary is around like $1,200 or $1,000, like all people considered. Unemployment rates like very high too, especially for people in their 20s. It's something like 25%, some madness. But the salary is definitely low. I mean, I think especially when you're young, you're making chump change, and then you can start to figure it out into like your mid 30s and onward. If you're in, a good career in business and at a law firm or something. But I have a couple Spanish friends who, when I first moved out here, were working like 70-hour work weeks for Deloitte. Um, and, in the US would pay, I don't know, 80, like entry level, maybe $80,000 or something, and they were making
Hmm.
like $1,800 dollars a month, euros a month. So big difference, and that's like a big company
Hmm.
that is paying people well in the United States. So yeah, definitely a big difference when it comes to salaries. I think teachers make jack shit in the United States. Teachers make like, yeah, 12, 1,500 maybe. I think was what my colleagues were making when I taught at the elementary school. But yeah, so I mean, which is all to say, having the American salary, like you are making a lot more money than everyone. And is also say, part of the reason that things are so cheap is because economically, you know, those prices make sense for the people out here.
Hmm.
Um, mhm.
Yeah, it's geo arbitrage at the end of the day.
That's it. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and people might think it's like typically just a LATAM thing or maybe a Southeast Asia thing, but even with an American salary in Southern Europe, like you're basically crushing it.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. Your taxes suck, like you mentioned, but you can still crush it and save a lot of money, no problem. Not as much as you could in Latin America, but definitely a good amount.
Hey everybody, hey everybody. Quick break from the podcast to tell you about Language Blend, the best new way to learn Spanish. Language Blend was co-founded by Jake Nomada, friend of the podcast, decade of experience in Latin America, and Jake and his team, they put everything into this program that they wish they had in terms of how to level up quickly with your Spanish language skills. Because the faster that you can get conversationally fluent in Spanish, the better the experience that you're going to have in Latin America. So go to languageblend.com for more information. Let's get into the visas and residencies a little bit. I see that you're going to be making this a focus area with Nick Loves Spain a little bit, talking about the procedures. I'm sure you've learned a lot in your 5 years in Spain. How about you tee up the subject for us, visas and residencies at a high level? Maybe what are the options for an American?
Yeah, absolutely. And something that is pretty much paramount, totally necessary when you are applying for a visa in Spain, because the bureaucracy is pretty notoriously bad. No offense to Spain. Is that you need to actually probably hire some legal help to basically channel in your application, let you know when it's been approved and all that good stuff. And so, part of what I'm going to be doing, I met with a immigration attorney today. One that I've used is essentially just channeling people his way and getting a little bit of commission kickback. It's not something that I'm going to be totally focused on, but I'm getting people hitting me up every day, maybe every other day at this rate, about moving to Spain, and people letting me know in my email newsletter, because there's a little check mark box that you can tick that they're interested in information on the move to Spain thing. So that's first and foremost, is that the actual application should be going through a lawyer. But yeah, as for like the different visas, so to start, I always like to kind of tell people about the short-term, just tourist visa that is granted to people of particular countries, the United States included. But the tourist visa lets you spend 90 days out of 180 in Europe, in Spain, without any sort of application process, just by means of being an American. Let's say you can come to Spain and stay there for 90 days, leave for 90 days, then come back for another 90, and so on. And so, that actually ends up probably working for a lot of people, especially if they're in the testing out mode. Um, when it comes to actually staying there longer than the 90 days, a couple different options, right? There's the student visa, which is something that I am using and have used in the past. There's like mid to long term ones. The longest term is a year, but you can do something like 6 months, and you have the ability to renew that. Something that's useful to know about the student visa is it's one of the visas, and I don't know all the exact details, and that's something that I will be studying now very deliberately. But you can actually apply for the student visa while in Spain. So let's say you come to Spain, you've been here for a month, you love it. You could actually apply while you're here and not end up leaving, which is awesome. And then with respect to the work visa, if you're actually getting hired by a company in Spain, I have never really met anyone. I think it's very particular cases. It's very difficult to actually have a company sponsor that work visa. But if you make it happen somehow through LinkedIn or something, that will get you here for long term. Golden visa, that's an interesting one for people who are looking to invest in Spain. Basically, and they have this in other European countries, and it's easier in other countries, but in Spain, if you purchase property or an investment valued at $500,000 or more, I think it's going up soon, but you'll get the golden visa. So by means of having money, making that investment, you'll just be able to stay here long term, which is pretty cool. Hopefully it doesn't go up too much, because I'd like to perhaps get that one day. So we'll see. If not, another visa. But there's the entrepreneur visa. I'm actually looking at this one. A lot of freelancers do this one. Essentially, just lets you write up a business proposal, and especially if you're using a lawyer's help, you send in that business entrepreneurial proposal, get it approved, and then you are paying Spanish taxes. So hopefully you don't have double U.S. taxation on this one, but you're just approved as an entrepreneur. Another interesting one is a non-lucrative residence visa, which is a matter of not working in Spain, but having enough money in your bank account. I believe the minimum is like $25,000. And just by means of having that money in your bank account, you're good to go. And then, the last one that I think really matters is just the digital nomad visa, which was introduced recently. And
just the start of the year, right?
yeah, exactly. And so there's not I don't know anyone on it. And this is something that I'm going to bring up and ask my lawyer about. But essentially, instead of like being a freelancer who is creating this business proposal in order to get the entrepreneur visa, if you're a digital nomad and you're a contracted worker or whatever, then you can just apply for this visa without filling out that proposal and be good to go. I don't know the tax differences between entrepreneur and digital nomad. I think that's going to be important. I've heard that it might be a little bit heavier for the digital nomad side, and so it might still be smart to go the entrepreneur route for people who are digital nomads. So more to come on that front.
Hmm.
We'll see, but once you have the 5 years of temporary residency through these longer term visas, then you're eligible for permanent residency. And after 10 years of residency, so the 5 from the temporary and then the 5 from the permanent, then you can apply for citizenship. And so, that would be a fun little goal for people interested in really staying here long term.
Hmm. And
But
on that note, I heard that the digital nomad visa actually counts towards citizenship and can count towards permanent residency.
so, like within the first year, yeah. So within those 10 years, if you're on the digital nomad visa, that it actually counts. I believe, yeah. I believe you're right there.
And so I think what I had a conversation with some high level Spanish lawyers a couple weeks ago. I'm a little foggy on the details right now,
Hmm,
but they said that this digital nomad visa was actually a great way in
hmm,
because it was potentially tax free and actually counted towards your years of residency if you're working towards citizenship. And then they said after, and I think you can renew it multiple times, which is really cool.
hmm,
And then what you can do is uh, after maybe you can no longer renew the digital nomad visa and you have to move to a different visa. Apparently, pretty easy to do. But then you can do something called the Beckham rule as a foreigner,
hmm.
where you're getting like a privileged tax rate. It's like a flat 20%, something like that. Have you heard about this Beckham rule?
I haven't heard about the Beckham rule, but yeah, I think the tax rate would be like 24 per potentially. So
Yeah, that sounds right.
yeah,
Beckham
this
rule,
is
guys. Look it up.
yeah.
Nick, thread idea.
There we go. There we go.
Tag me.
I'm taking note. I'll tag
Tag me.
you.
Vance said he wanted to know about the Beckham rule. I'll retweet it.
Yeah,
Done deal.
I'll you'll be in the hook. Thanks, My Latin Life, for the idea. Yeah, time to learn about the Beckham rule. But yeah, see, I have things to learn on this visa and residency front, which is good and exciting, but certainly something that now that I'm doing this full time, need to spend some time on.
Yeah, so tons of options. Sounds like more than a handful of options. Would you say for Americans the best bet is to show up in Spain and make it happen there, or to start in the US and begin the process in the States?
Yeah, so some require you to actually, apply while you're in the United States. The entrepreneur visa is one of those, for example. And so, what you could do is basically, yeah, if you want to just come out here and give things a try, I think the student visa would make a lot of sense for people. Or the digital nomad visa obviously sounds promising, but I say come out, give it a try, and yeah, apply from here. But make sure that you are able to apply from here, depending on the visa that you're going for.
Hmm. And you think moving from a student visa to like a non-student visa in the future should be pretty seamless? Because I've heard, so
Hmm.
I guess I'm answering my own question, but I've heard that once you're already in the system, it's pretty easy to change your status, and kind of the bigger deal is just kind of getting in the system, getting maybe an ID number, all that type of stuff, and then switching your status is pretty chill. I think I heard that in relation to the digital nomad visa versus some other type of visa.
Yeah, like I'm on the student visa, and I'm looking at the entrepreneur and the digital nomad is my potential too. And I don't have to, because I've been on this visa already. I don't have to go back to the United States, for example. So
Yeah,
it's just a matter of,
see, yeah, that's
yeah,
huge.
yeah, it's huge for sure. Don't want to do that, man, for three three months. No thanks.
Hmm. How did you get the idea for the Nick Loves Spain account? How did you decide? Like, was it conscious? Like, I want to build an authority account around Spain, or was it more just? But give me something a little more juicy than just like I wanted to show my passion for Spain. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, give me more. Like, what is the vision for it? How you gonna grow it? What's the idea here?
yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm a big Twitter user, obviously now, but like before, or Twitter consumer, I suppose. And so I was just, probably mildly addicted to it as my form of social media. I don't
Hmm.
really go on many of the other platforms much at all, if at all. And so, if you spend enough time on Twitter, you're obviously going to encounter a whole lot of accounts making money or claiming to make money, but at the very least, kind of putting that idea in your head. And so, it was something that was interesting because it was like, hot damn, these people, are claiming to make a ton of money. So I don't know what I would do, but the idea of starting an account and trying to grow it and make money was an appealing one. And one of the accounts that I encountered, I don't know if do you know Zach Hommel at all? He's in like like helping men grow.
I know the
Um,
name. I know the name.
yeah, he's like got 70,000 followers or something, and I'd been following him for a little while, and I saw him advertising one of his retreats, and I was actually headed back to the U.S. for a month, I think for my cousin's wedding, and I was like, this guy's fucking doing this thing, and I was just kind of curious about spending 4 days with him. Not least because I think it would, it was good for me, and there's always room for self improvement and whatnot. But also because I was sort of just tangentially curious about how it is someone was making money on Twitter, and so I went on that, and kind of the big thing that I learned from Zach, I'd say, who also helps people with their personal brands, is that he was just like, dude, just live a cool life, post about it, share it. That's pretty much kind of the high level recipe, and be authentic, all that stuff, which is, you know, like sounds like just a bunch of like platitudes, I suppose, and can be interpreted as that. Not to say that he was speaking in platitudes, but I just kind of, took that to heart and thought about it and thought about what my niche could be. I'm not like a copywriter. I'm not, into any sort of graphic design. I don't know email marketing, whatever.
Oh,
I'm
you're
not
gonna
like,
learn.
yeah. I just introduced my email list. I actually worked in email marketing before. I sold email marketing software, so I do know it. But I wasn't like a total expert on the content side of things. But anyways, I kind of was just thinking more and more about it, and just thought about my life and the life I was living, and how it was cool that I was an American in Spain, and then I went on a friend's podcast. Her name's Madison Raleigh. She's got like a decent following on TikTok and stuff, and she was
Mhm.
telling me after the show just how she is getting paid to help people, go do digital nomad things in places around the world, and that's kind of when things like the light bulb went off, I'd say, and I was like, I could do that for Spain. And so, I really kind of narrowed it down. For a little while. I was like, maybe Nick loves Europe, and then I quickly realized like that's the stupidest idea ever. Like that's way too, that's way too not niched down and way too overwhelming.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, Spain is like, for me, it's like it's a big and it's a challenging and like an appropriately overwhelming niche. But it's like small enough, I think, to really learn a lot about and nail and just be that guy, the Spain guy. And so that's kind of how I came to, deciding on the account. And then you kind of just start to dive into all things Spain. Before I started like tweeting, I probably did like 2-3 months of like research to really like hone in. This is why I had the 9 to 5, obviously, but hone in on what sort of stuff I want to tweet about.
Mhm.
And then it's like, oh, it's the food and it's the cities and it's the festivals and it's the wine and the different regions and the towns and the coasts and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, it is obviously about like my passion for Spain. I think what's important to be said about that is that that's cool because I am always enjoying what I'm doing. Like if I had to write daily threads on something else, I can't imagine being, so happy doing it. But it's such a passion that writing these things is forever interesting. And so that's kind of the story of yeah, how it came to be. And then with respect to like the growth and the monetization, um, I mean, one, I'm having people hit me up all the time about moving to Spain, which is cool. And I think I am establishing this channel where I could just funnel people to the immigration attorneys and make a commission. and be able to help them and point them in the right direction, which is cool. I think offering like some travel consultation, these things are like short term, charging people to be able to like help them plan their trip a little bit, because I think people are really, I think, a lot of people, some people are really bad at planning trips. I've like had people come visit and they tell me, what they have planned in certain cities in Spain, and I just am like, you don't have any restaurants that you're planning to go to. You haven't really even thought about what you want to see and what you want to do, or what the local activities are. And so, I think there's room there to improve people's travels.
Hmm.
And then, like on the monetization, excuse me, aspect for the long term and medium term, I mean, I just think there are clear benefits, right, to like growing an audience, like
Hmm.
growing an email list, in affiliate marketing, making money, getting into other social channels eventually, making like money from like the ad revenue shares. I know Elon's talking about making that accessible for Twitter. Yeah, brand partnerships, whatever, paid retweets are cool. Eventually, I'd like to like do retreats. I think once I get a big enough following, I think
Mm.
doing retreats and bringing people to really cool things within
Yeah,
Spain,
like relocation tours or
like come spend 9 days with me, and I'll take you surfing in the Basque Country, and we'll go wine tasting in like La Rioja, and we will, yeah, I mean, relocation tours, like come check out potential cities that you could live in.
La Rioja.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of
I
the big
just
wine
bought
regions.
a rosé wine from there that I'll be bringing to a little dinner later tonight.
There you go. Yeah, enjoy the Spanish wine. That's the most famous wine region in Spain. So let me
Is
know
it?
how the bottle is. Um, but yeah, that's the thing. And I don't know. I think helping other people do this eventually too, if I can really crack the code. Because I think the travel niche in Twitter is a bit unexplored, right? Like you have your fitness dudes and your copywriters, like you're doing what you're doing. Do you know anyone else, I mean, doing what you're doing, uh, like to a bigger, larger degree than you are right now?
Mm, I'd love to hear it from you because there I don't know it all, but I mean, there's
Yeah,
one guy I like that does it for Africa. It's called Business on Afrique, and he does it for the French speaking market. People ask me
cool.
like, who's the Asian equivalent? Who's the
Yeah,
XYZ equivalent? I mean, I guess you're the Spain equivalent of what I do. Um, yeah, not exactly. I would love to see more guys that are like the expert on different countries or regions. I think it's cool.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I think most people come to Spain, for example, and they go to Barcelona, they go to Madrid, and they do the things. They go to Sevilla, maybe if they're especially like adventurous, they're hitting like Granada and Malaga. But that's just because they don't really know anything else. And so I think there should be people, individuals who are representing, you know, a country, or, multiple countries, whatever it may be, and really diving into the details so as to be able to make it
Yeah,
easy for people to,
explain it to a foreigner. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so,
I noticed that you were using kind of similar things that I do with like the four photos on Twitter. Like you do like the four photos, give like a little vibe of the city or whatever you're talking about, or
uh-huh.
and do like the bullet points, like 300 days of sun, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. Yeah, which I appreciate the inspiration. It's a good idea. It's a good tweet always. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is getting into like, what sort of content people like, and I'm learning a lot of stuff all the time. But yeah, people love like some beautiful pictures and then a little bit about a place. I think they kind of, really take to that and go crazy for it. And there are a lot of places that people don't know about that are beautiful. And so if you could just do it in a quick tweet, like, that could end up influencing someone's travel plans later down the line. So it's super cool. But that's the idea. I want to revolutionize travel a little bit and do it on Twitter, and maybe eventually get into the other social platforms. Maybe not.
mhm.
I don't like Instagram. I don't like TikTok that much, but obviously there's people to reach and money to make. But
Hmm.
yeah,
On that thought, this is a bit of insider baseball, but when I think about Spain, I think about retirees being one of the bigger American markets.
hmm
Like you'll get some young people that want to, you know, go crazy in Barcelona for a couple of years, but I feel like it's not so much of a young person's game, Spain, and it's
right.
more for the retirees. And the thing about the retirees is it's a sick market to capture because they have kind of like unlimited money and they want people to do things for them so they don't have to think, but they're not really on Twitter.
Right.
Hey guys, quick interruption to tell you about Bitrefill. Bitrefill is the best way to convert your crypto into gift card balances. These are gift cards that you can spend at hotels.com, Airbnb, Nike, and many more. You may remember Joel Valenzuela, previous podcast guest. He's been living on crypto exclusively since 2015, and he's a big consumer of Bitrefill. And so I asked Joel, I said, what do you like most about Bitrefill? He said that he likes the instant delivery, the precise amount so that you don't have to juggle a lot of gift cards, and he loves the global selection. Nobody else has this much selection of gift cards, over 10,000 gift card options across hundreds of countries. Go to bitrefill.com to sign up, and you can also use the code MyLatinLife for 10% back off your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. Switching gears a little bit, tell me a little bit about the Santiago, the Camino de Santiago trail that you're prepping to do. So you're gonna be doing it in a couple months' time, and I guess anyone else doing it can hit up Nick on Twitter around September. I guess you said.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the Camino de Santiago, it's a pilgrimage. It's the biggest pilgrimage in Europe. And the Apostle Saint James, Jesus' Apostle Saint James, is said to be buried there, which is why, it's such a big deal for people to walk to. And something like 350,000 people walk it every year,
That's an
which
insane
is
amount.
it's an insane number. There are different routes, so it does like divvy up across routes. I think there's like 7 main ones. There's the French way, which is the main one. Most people go on that. There's like a Portuguese one. There's the Camino del Norte, so in the north. The Camino Inglés, I think, which is shorter. The original one is the Camino Primitivo, the primitive Camino, and then there's one called like Via de la Plata. I kind of forget the information on that, but yeah, I think there's 281 routes in total actually, but those are like the 7 main ones, and I have no idea about the other 274 or whatever.
Because you end
Um,
in Galicia, and
mhm.
it's really more about where you start.
Exactly. Yeah, you end in the same place, and you can start in Andalusia, or you can start in France, or you can start, in the north of Spain, whatever it may be. And so the one I'm doing is the most popular one. It's the Camino Frances. It's starts in Saint Jean Pied de Port. So in, I believe it would be the Basque country of France in the south,
Yep.
west of France, and so you do that, and then you quickly get into
Why there, by the
Spain.
way? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I don't know. That's I'm gonna be so I'm doing it in September to October. It's 35 days, so I have a lot of research and planning to do. And yeah, why there is definitely a good question. So I'll find out.
Yeah, it says it on Wikipedia. Saint Jean Pied de Port.
hmm
The T is silent on Port, by the way.
Okay. Okay.
And then it
I'm not a
says
French
most
speaker.
popular option for traveling the Camino de Santiago.
hmm
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good
It's
to know. Good to know.
It's like, yeah, so it takes 30 to 35 days. It's like 760 kilometers, which is like about 470 miles. And once you get out of France, you go Navarra, which is where Pamplona is, La Rioja, which is the wine region, Castilla y León, which is another region north of Madrid, and then you get into Galicia. And so yeah, I'll be walking it. I think it will take, like 30, probably 4 days with what I've planned. There are 34 towns and cities along the path that I'm looking at. I might like walk through some of those so as to be able to spend like a day in other places. Pamplona is where I studied abroad. I'd love to spend like a day there and not just have to skedaddle the next morning. But yeah, I might also like try and I wear barefoot like footwear.
Oh, the like five toe things.
Yeah, the ugly ones.
Oh God.
Um, I own a pair of Earth Runners too, which is the barefoot sandals, and I might I've written them. I've written like 7 barefoot um, footwear companies, and basically said like, hey, I want to do the Camino in your shoes. Um,
Ah, that's
yeah,
smart.
will you sponsor me? Like, I think this could be a
Very
PR
smart.
splash.
Very smart.
Yeah, it is a popular time to do the Camino, so these are important things to consider. But basically, if you wake up early enough, I've heard that you have a very good, if not guaranteed, um, opportunity to get a space, which is great.
Check in
The
early.
check in early, like 5, it's like a 5-hour walk each day, 5, 6 or whatever. And so if you just get out the door before everyone else, which, I'm happy to do as long as the sandals don't fail me. And yeah, get there early enough, then you'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, it could result in having to like continue on to a nearby town and trying there. And worst comes to worst, I suppose I'll be crashing on some benches somewhere. But knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen.
Nick, I have one last question for you as we get to wrapping up, which is, you've taken an interesting choice in life, moving to Spain, moving to Europe, coming from LA, a very high-powered city, where I'm sure you had tons of opportunities there. Any regrets about the choice that you've made to live in Spain? And what do you think the trade-off has been, the pros and cons of your decision to move to Spain?
Good question. Do I regret it? Not at all. Yeah, I definitely. I mean, one, I don't think it's good to live in regret, but two, I would make the same decision if I were able to rewind and do it all over. That would be pretty fun to do it all over. But the trade-offs are are somewhat significant. I mean, I left LA. That's where all of my family lives. That's where all of my friends from college and from high school live. Maybe not LA, but in California. And so, just not seeing them very much has been probably the worst thing about it. Not that I think I haven't grown apart from like my good friends or my family at all. In that it's still nothing but love and nothing but fun times and wholesome conversations when I do see them. But it is an odd thing spending so much time away and only seeing people once once every year or so, especially with family. You see certain people age and you realize like you're getting older and they're getting older. But that's why I think it's important to do something like this in your younger years, in your 20s, just because if you're doing it a different time, perhaps those are more important years to be with your family and so on.
Hmm.
So apart from that, yeah, no regrets. I don't think there's much of a trade-off apart from not seeing your loved ones. But I've had just the most amazing time out in Spain and look forward to my continued time here.
Hmm.
And you really just encourage anyone considering it whatsoever to give it a shot, and if they need any help or suggestions, to hit me up.
Hmm. Yeah, it totally makes sense, especially because you did high school and college in the same
Hmm.
city or the same metro area at least. And so, between doing the semester abroad and then now finally getting to fully live abroad, like this is the time, right? Because you never lived in another city for college, which a lot of people do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's important to leave home. It's important for your own growth and your own story and your own adventure. What good like adventure stories are about people who stay at home? Pretty much none. So you
The
got to get
hero's
out there.
journey.
The hero's journey. That's it, man. Exactly.
The hero's journey. So, Nick, thank you so much for telling about your hero's journey that's still well underway with Nick Loves Spain. And, we're definitely looking forward to what you have planned for the future with the account, and looking forward to continuing to support each other.
Absolutely, Vance. I will just end this by saying thank you so much for having me on My Latin Life podcast, and for reaching out to me when I was just getting started with my account. One of the coolest things I think about posting on Twitter is just connecting with cool people, and you are one of those people, to say the least. So really appreciate your time, and hope to maybe see you out in Spain one day.
Oh, it'll certainly happen. It'll happen. And we'll have you in Portugal or something like that as well.
Hell yeah, let's go, man.
Cool, man. Well, this has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, guest today was Nick O'Brien, aka Nick Loves Spain. All the socials are in the show notes. Thanks again.